Hey, welcome. So today we're going to get into a question that's really at the core of, well, almost every story, right? What does it actually mean to be strong? We're going to go on a little journey here to redefine that whole idea, and trust me, the answers might come from places you'd never expect.
So this right here, this was written by Vincent van Gogh to his brother Theo. Just let that sink in for a second. What such a nobody has in his heart. It's a feeling so many of us can relate to, that deep down fear of just being insignificant. But it's also this incredibly powerful defiant statement of hope, isn't it? A belief that what's inside you has real value, even if the world can't see it yet. And that tension, that's the perfect place for us to start.
Because let's be real, that's the hard part. What do you do when the world treats you like you're a nobody, and you actually start to believe it? What happens when your own heart starts to feel like a source of shame instead of a source of strength?
And that question, it takes us right into our first section here. Before we can even talk about different ways to be strong, we have to get real about the starting point for so many of us. That painful internal feeling that we just don't measure up.
Yeah, this feeling of worthlessness, it can really dig in and become this deep, personal shame. And the words you're seeing on the screen now, they come straight from our source material. It's a totally raw, unfiltered self-portrait of that inner battle. The feeling of being dull, ugly, fake, even a loathsome presence. It's from this exact place of pain that we often start to build our defenses.
So, let's get into it. How do we deal with that kind of deep shame? Well, a lot of the time, we build an armor made of ambition, of power, of trying to become so important that nobody could ever call us a nobody ever again.
Our sources give this a name, the Yujiro fantasy. It's named after a character from the manga Baki the Grappler, and it's basically the ultimate power fantasy, right? The desire to become so overwhelmingly strong, so feared, that what other people think of you just doesn't matter anymore. You build this armor of dread around yourself so you can finally feel invulnerable.
And this isn't just some idea from a comic book. It's a pattern that has played out all through history. You know, think about Alexander the Great, the ultimate conqueror. Our source material suggests we should reframe him as Alexander the Grave. The idea is that his world-spanning ambition really came from that same internal feeling of lack, that same desperate need to prove he wasn't a nobody. And in trying to do that, he stretched his arms all across the known world. And as you can see here, this isn't a one-off thing. It's a destructive cycle that just keeps repeating. The legend of Achilles inspires Alexander. Then Alexander's image becomes an idol for Julius Caesar. And Caesar, well, he carves an idol for Napoleon. Each one of these guys is building on the last, creating this chain of men trying to fill some internal void by dominating the external world. It's a whole legacy of ambition built on a foundation of inadequacy.
And that brings us to this timeless, incredibly deep question that just cuts right through that whole model of strength. I mean, after all the conquering, all the power, what good is it really if you lose the very essence of who you are in the process?
Okay, so if the path of the conqueror just leads to you losing your soul, is there another way? A different path to strength? This is where our whole explainer takes a really sharp turn. Because the answer, believe it or not, isn't found in history books.
That's right. The answer, as our source material suggests, is in shonen. You know, the genre of Japanese comics and anime for young men, full of stories about growing and overcoming challenges. And the ultimate example of this totally different path? A character famous for his pure heart and insane power, Son Goku.
And this slide just lays it all out perfectly. You see the two paths to power, personified by Goku and Vegeta. Just look at what drives them. For Goku, it's all about the pure joy of getting better, of protecting life. But Vegeta, he's all ego and envy. He's constantly tormented by the power gap between him and Goku. Then you look at their attitudes. Goku is just playful. He's not attached. Fighting is a sport to him. For Vegeta, it's this desperate white-knuckle struggle. And the results? Well, they speak for themselves. For Goku, it's effortless strength, peace, harmony. For Vegeta, it's just constant frustration.
You know, Goku's power actually taps into this really deep philosophical idea called Wu Wei, or effortless action. It's the idea that true power doesn't come from brute force or that white-knuckle effort. It comes from acting in harmony with your true nature, with your instincts. Goku is at his most powerful when he just lets go and trusts his pure heart. So what this all points to is a really critical idea. The Goku model is working on a completely different kind of spiritual physics. It's not just about what you do, it's how you do it. The very nature of your search for strength completely changes the kind of strength you end up with.
The sources boil this all down to a simple but pretty profound principle. You choose inspiration, not envy. You choose play, not pride. And you choose to just bask in who you are without a mask. It's a path of self-acceptance and joy, not a desperate fight for validation.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures how useless that ego-driven approach is. Vegeta's desperate grasping for power, driven by his envy of Goku, is the very thing that holds him back. His own effort is working against him.
And you know what's wild? We see this exact same wisdom echoed in completely different traditions. This verse from the Psalms points to the same truth. If your foundation isn't pure, if what you're doing isn't aligned with something bigger than your own ego, then all your work, all your striving to build yourself up, it's all for nothing. It's in vain.
In all of this, it all builds to one final, really crucial question. It brings us right back to the beginning, back to that fear of being a nobody, and how we experience our own sense of worth.
This is really the ultimate takeaway. The next time you feel weak, or small, or insignificant, just ask yourself this question. Whose judgment are you using as your yardstick? Is it yours, or is it some collection of other people's opinions?
And here's the core problem, stated so perfectly in the source material. When our mind is cluttered with what we think other people are thinking, when it's full of so many people's eyes, it stops being our own. We can't even connect with our own worth because we're too busy trying to see ourselves through 1,000 different lenses.
And that leaves us with this final, powerful redefinition. Real strength isn't about overcoming other people. It's about overcoming the need to. The kind of strength that actually brings peace and harmony, it isn't about gaining the whole world. It's about getting to a place where you no longer have to prove yourself to anyone. And that includes yourself. It's just basking in the heart of who you really are.